The cursor blinked at me from line 847 of the authentication module, 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I was still hunting down a bug for a client deadline. The house was quiet, Emma finishing homework upstairs, Jake asleep after Little League practice, and Rebecca supposedly at a marketing dinner in Denver. I reached for my third cup of coffee, cold but still caffeinated. This was our rhythm. Rebecca traveling for work while I held down the fort, debugging code for clients who needed everything. Yesterday, 16 years of marriage had settled into shared calendars, quick kisses goodbye, and the subtle distance that had grown between us over recent months. Ping cloud storage sync complete. I frowned. I hadn't uploaded anything. Must be one of Rebecca's work presentations auto-syncing. She always forgot to turn off the automatic backup feature I'd set up years ago. I clicked the notification out of idle curiosity, expecting another PowerPoint about market strategies. Instead, my world imploded. The file was a video, 23 minutes and 17 seconds long. The thumbnail showed Rebecca's face, flushed and radiant in a way I hadn't seen in months. She was on a bed that wasn't ours, in a room I didn't recognize, with a man who definitely wasn't me. My finger hovered over the trackpad. Part of me wanted to close the laptop, pretend I'd never seen it. But the analytical part of my brain needed to understand what I was looking at. I clicked play. The first seconds were devastating. Rebecca straddling a dark-haired man, moving with enthusiasm she hadn't shown me in over a year. But the audio destroyed me. God, I've needed this, Rebecca panted breathlessly. David is so boring. Same routine every night. Dinner, TV, bed, no passion, no spontaneity. The man beneath her, older, expensive watch glinting, ran his hands down her back. What about financially? He asked with casual interest. You said, he's not exactly killing it. Rebecca laughed bitterly in response. Mediocre at best. We're comfortable, but that's it. I deserve better than settling for a middle management programmer who thinks Olive Garden is fine dining. My stomach lurched. This wasn't just infidelity. This was character assassination. My wife of 16 years was performing emotionally for another man's camera, because it was obviously being recorded intentionally. The angle was perfect, lighting good, Rebecca's performance deliberate. She kept glancing at the device, ensuring her words carried clearly. I skipped ahead. More passionate intimacy interspersed with casual cruelty. Rebecca complaining about our suburban house, mocking my weekend projects, describing our marriage as dead, while simultaneously planning our family vacation to Yellowstone. The worst part came near the end. The man asked about her kids. They're fine, Rebecca said dismissively, barely pausing her movements. Emma's busy with school, Jake's got sports, they barely notice when I'm gone. David handles all that domestic stuff. You don't feel guilty? The man pressed. Rebecca's laugh was sharp and cold. About what? Finally feeling alive again? Mark, I've been sleepwalking through my life for years. This, us, is the first real thing I've felt in forever. Mark. Now I had a name. I paused the video, staring at my wife's face, radiant with betrayal. The timestamp showed 3 hours ago. Rebecca had texted at 7:30 saying dinner was running. Long. At that moment, she'd been comparing me unfavorably to Mark while planning our vacation. My phone buzzed. Rebecca's photo filled the screen. Hey, honey, she said breathlessly when I answered. Sorry I'm calling so late. Dinner ran super long and Jennifer from corporate wanted to discuss Q3 projections. I stared at the paused video. Rebecca's face, flushed with satisfaction, hair tousled, eyes bright with joy, I couldn't remember seeing directed at me in months. How was the food? I managed to ask. Hotel restaurant stuff. Pretty boring, actually, my wife replied casually. Can't wait to get home to you and the kids. Boring. The same word she'd used to describe me minutes ago while writhing on top of Mark. Drive safe. I love you, I said automatically. Love you too, honey, Rebecca responded warmly. The call ended. I sat surrounded by family life, Emma's honor roll, certificate, Jake's baseball schedule, 16 years of shared memories. On my laptop screen, the frozen image of my wife glowing with betrayal. The cloud sync notification blinked. Rebecca's technological carelessness had just handed me the evidence that would change everything. She'd been careful to lie to me, but forgotten about the digital trail. I closed the laptop and listened to familiar sounds. The refrigerator humming, floorboards creaking, a car pulling into our driveway. Rebecca was home. I didn't sleep. Instead, I spent the night documenting everything. Screenshots of metadata, backup copies saved to secure locations. A timeline of Rebecca's recent work trips, cross-referenced with expense reports and credit card statements. By dawn, I had the foundation of a case. But first, I needed to understand exactly who I was married to. Rebecca came downstairs at 7:15, humming softly. She was glowing in a way that might have seemed refreshing if I didn't know its source. Her hair was perfectly styled, despite her supposedly late night, makeup flawless, step light, and confident. "Morning, honey," she said cheerfully, kissing my cheek with lips that had been on another man 12 hours earlier. "You're up early." Couldn't sleep. "Work stuff," I replied, studying her face for any sign of guilt. I poured her coffee, watching for any sign of guilt. Nothing. If anything, she seemed more affectionate than usual. Emma stumbled downstairs in school clothes. At 15, she was developing my analytical mind, and I could see her studying her. Mother's unusually cheerful demeanor. "You seem happy this morning, Mom," Emma observed with teenage directness. "Just a good meeting yesterday," Rebecca answered smoothly, ruffling Emma's hair. "Sometimes work energizes me. How's the chemistry project?" "Fine," Emma replied, her tone suggesting she wasn't buying the explanation entirely. After the kids left, Rebecca lingered over coffee with unusual attention. "David, I've been thinking about us lately," she said with careful deliberation. My blood went cold. "What about us? We've been in such a routine. Don't you think we need to shake things up? Add some excitement?" she asked, eyes brightening with what I now recognized as calculated enthusiasm. The audacity was breathtaking. She was planning to justify her affair as marriage enhancement. "What kind of excitement?" I asked cautiously. Rebecca's eyes brightened further. "I was talking to colleagues about how mature couples handle exploring, keeping the spark alive after so many years." I set down my coffee carefully. "What exactly are you trying to tell me?" She took a deep breath, clearly rehearsed. "I think we should consider opening up our marriage. Just physically, nothing emotional. A way to rediscover ourselves before reconnecting as a couple." She was suggesting I agree to let her continue her relationship with Mark with my blessing. "You want a hall pass?" I said flatly. "That's crude," Rebecca corrected with a slight frown. "I'm talking about mature adult exploration within our committed relationship." I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward her. The video was loaded, paused at a frame showing her face clearly. "Is this what you mean by mature exploration?" Color drained from Rebecca's face, but only momentarily. Then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen, cold, calculating, unashamed. "You've been spying on me," she accused. "Your phone!" "Auto-synced to our cloud storage," I replied evenly. "You handed me the evidence yourself." She glanced at the screen, then back at me. No tears, no apologies. Just irritation at being caught. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Since last night." Rebecca nodded, processing tactical implications. "Okay. Now we can have an honest conversation about our marriage." "What marriage?" I asked incredulously. "You spent last night having intimacy with another man while telling him how boring and financially mediocre I am." "The marriage that's been dead for months, David," she replied, her voice taking on the persuasive tone she used with difficult clients. where we go through motions for the kids while slowly dying inside. I'm not ashamed of needing more than this suburban prison. Mark makes me feel alive in ways you haven't in years. Mark Lavalier, VP of Sales at your company. Married with 2 kids, I stated. She waved dismissively. That's complicated. We both understand what this is. Physical release, emotional connection, but nothing that threatens our primary relationships. Except you spent 20 minutes trash-talking. Your primary relationship while you fucked him, I pointed out. I was venting frustration, Rebecca said with practiced justification. Don't you complain about me sometimes? The false equivalency was staggering. Not while having intimacy with other women. This is exactly what I mean about you not understanding mature relationships, she continued with growing confidence. Other couples navigate this all the time. How long? I demanded. We've been seeing each other 4 months, she admitted. But the emotional distance started way before that. We've been roommates for over a year. 4 months. Rebecca's increased travel, new workout routine, working late weekend conferences. Were there others? I asked. She hesitated just long enough to confirm my suspicions. A couple of brief connections at conferences, nothing serious. Jesus Christ, Rebecca. Don't be dramatic, she replied with irritating calm. I explored physical connections while maintaining our family structure. Our kids are happy, bills are paid, social life intact. What's the problem? I stared at this stranger wearing Rebecca's face. This wasn't someone who'd made a mistake. This was someone who'd methodically planned deception while building justifications. The problem is that you're a liar and cheat who's been living a double life while I've been home raising our children. Our children are fine, Rebecca countered defensively. And my career supports this family as much as yours. Your career, that includes fucking your boss. VP of Sales isn't my boss. He's a peer, she corrected. She stood, smoothing her skirt with practiced composure. Look, I know this is shocking, but we can work through this if you're willing to be adult about it. Opening up actually strengthens primary bonds. By opening up, you mean I pretend I'm okay with you continuing to sleep with Mark, I summarized. Among other things, yes. She confirmed with breathtaking magnanimity. And you'd be free to explore too. The magnanimity was breathtaking. I want you to move to the guest room while we figure this out, I said firmly. David, she began. No, I interrupted. You want to explore other relationships? Start by exploring what it's like not sleeping in my bed. Rebecca's mask slipped, showing genuine surprise that I wasn't accepting her terms. You're being unreasonable. I'm being an adult, I replied steadily, which apparently means something different to me. She gathered her purse with sharp, irritated movements. I'm going to work. When I get home, I hope you've thought about this rationally. Our marriage doesn't have to end, David, but it does have to evolve. After she left, I sat alone in our kitchen, surrounded by breakfast remnants. The house felt contaminated by knowledge of what she'd been doing while I debugged code and helped with homework. I opened my laptop and continued building my case. If Rebecca wanted evolution, I'd give it to her. Just not the kind she expected. 2 weeks of careful performance followed. I played the considering husband, meeting Rebecca's attempts at honest communication with measured responses suggesting I might accept her arrangement. She interpreted my lack of explosive anger as progress. Meanwhile, I was building a case that would withstand any divorce attorney in Illinois. Sandra came recommended by my brother Mike, former Chicago PD detective, 15 years in private investigation specializing in matrimonial cases. Professional, discreet, expensive enough to ensure quality. Your wife's not very good at this, Sandra said during our third meeting, sliding a folder across the Starbucks table. Either incredibly arrogant or genuinely doesn't understand how easy she is to track. The folder contained a timeline that turned my stomach. Rebecca hadn't just been seeing Mark. She'd systematically worked through her company's executive ranks for over a year. Hotel receipts that didn't match claimed accommodations, expense reports for dinners with non-existent clients, conference registrations for events she'd never attended. Mark Lavalier is actually the third concurrent relationship, Sandra continued, matter-of-factly. There's James Morrison from Portland. She sees him during West Coast trips. And David Reese from European Division met during that London conference in February. I remembered London. Rebecca had been gone 6 days, supposedly meeting international clients. She'd returned energized and affectionate, bringing gifts and talking enthusiastically about expanding her professional network. She has a type, Sandra observed clinically. Married executives with strong financial profiles. Very strategic target selection. The evidence was overwhelming. Screenshots from Rebecca's company phone retrieved through Sandra's IT contact. Photos of Rebecca entering hotels with various men during claimed business trips. Financial records, showing personal expenses charged to company cards and reimbursed through fabricated client entertainment. But the most damaging evidence came from Rebecca herself. She'd gotten comfortable, and comfortable people make mistakes. Like the voice recording Sandra captured of Rebecca discussing me with Mark. David's basically a live-in babysitter at this point. Rebecca's voice was crystal clear through Sandra's recording equipment. He's got this whole domestic routine, so I don't deal with day-to-day kid stuff. Actually, pretty convenient. What about divorce? Mark's voice asked with casual interest. What about it? Rebecca responded with confident dismissal. He's conflict-averse and financially dependent on my income for the lifestyle he wants. He'll take whatever deal keeps him comfortable and avoids drama. I know exactly how to handle David. Sandra had dozens of similar recordings. Rebecca discussing her exit strategy, plans to eventually move in with whichever executive proved most advantageous, dismissive analysis of my character and earning potential. She's not wrong about being the higher earner, I admitted reluctantly. Her salary and bonuses are 30% higher. Doesn't matter, Sandra replied with professional certainty. Illinois is no fault, but adultery impacts property division and custody. Plus, she's been using marital assets to fund affairs, grounds for reimbursement claims. More importantly, Sandra documented Rebecca's increasing disengagement from family, missed parent-teacher conferences for fake client meetings, Jake's championship game skipped for a Portland weekend with James Morrison, Emma's Honor Society. Induction cut short because Mark planned a surprise Chicago evening. Custody angle is your strongest play, Sandra advised. She systematically prioritized affairs over children's significant events. Any judge will notice that pattern. I studied photographs. Rebecca and Mark entering the Palmer house. Rebecca and James at a Portland restaurant that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Rebecca alone at O'Hare with vacation luggage. Disguised as business travel. How did she think she'd never get caught? I asked, genuinely puzzled. Sandra shrugged with practiced cynicism. Compartmentalization. She's convinced her professional persona is separate from family life, and she's smart enough to manage both. Classic narcissistic thinking. The hardest part was watching Emma and Jake navigate their mother's increasing absence. Emma had started asking pointed questions about Rebecca's travel schedule, distracted behavior during dinners, inability to attend school events that had been calendared. For months. Mom seems different lately, Emma said while I helped with calculus, her voice carrying teenage perceptiveness. More selfish, I guess? She used to ask about friends and classes. Now she just nods and scrolls through her phone. Jake was more direct in his 15-year-old honesty. Why doesn't Mom want to hang out with us anymore? These conversations broke my heart, but strengthened my resolve. Rebecca wasn't just betraying me. She was abandoning her children for executive love affairs. Mike reviewed Sandra's evidence package with the cold eye of a family attorney. This is nuclear-grade material, David, he said with professional appreciation. Everything you need for primary custody, significant property advantages, and potential criminal charges for company credit card fraud. Criminal charges? I asked. Surprised. Using corporate funds for personal affairs, then filing false expense reports? Mike explained matter-of-factly. Textbook embezzlement. Her general counsel will recommend termination and prosecution to avoid liability. I thought about Rebecca's confidence in handling me, her assumption I was too passive to fight back. I want to give her one more week, I decided. Let her get comfortable enough to make one final mistake. You sure? Mike asked with lawyerly caution. Every day risks her getting suspicious. She won't, I replied with certainty. She's convinced she's outsmarted me. Rebecca's going to Chicago this weekend for what she claims is client presentation. Actually, it's a romantic getaway with Mark at the Peninsula. I've seen reservations. Mike leaned back with understanding appreciation. You want to catch her in the biggest lie yet. Then end this marriage in a way that protects my kids and ensures she faces consequences for every choice, I confirmed. Sandra smiled grimly with professional satisfaction. Scorched earth. I can work with that. 3 simultaneous strikes. Perfectly. Time to maximize impact and minimize Rebecca's damage control. She'd spent months maneuvering for advantage in a war she didn't know she was fighting. Time to show her what actual strategy looked like. Friday afternoon, Rebecca kissed me goodbye with lips that would be on another man within hours. She'd packed her small-wheeled suitcase, the one for romantic getaways, not the larger bag for actual business conferences, and was practically glowing with anticipation. Client presentation should go well, she said with practiced ease, checking her phone for the 10th time in 5 minutes. Might run late Sunday depending on follow-up meetings. Drive safely, I replied evenly. Tell the Hartwell Group I said hello. The Hartwell Group was fictional. Rebecca had created elaborate cover stories about courting major new clients, complete with fake presentation materials left strategically visible. She had no idea I'd verified no such company existed. After her car pulled away, I began executing the most precisely timed operation of my life. Phase 1 started at 4:47 p.m. with Mike's downtown law office. The divorce petition was comprehensive. 43 pages of evidence, financial analysis, and custody arguments Sandra and Mike had crafted into an unassailable legal weapon. Filing Friday afternoon means she won't be served until Monday, Mike explained. Gives you the weekend to execute other phases without her knowing what's coming. Perfect, I confirmed. Phase 2 required delicate timing. I'd spent 2 weeks crafting the perfect LinkedIn message to Jennifer Lavalier, professional, concerned, just specific enough to confirm suspicions she clearly already had. Her response came within an hour. David, thank you for reaching out. I've suspected something for months. Mark's been working late constantly, taking weekend business trips that don't show up on his company calendar, becoming increasingly distant and secretive. If you have evidence confirming what I think is happening, I need to see it. My children deserve better than this. I sent her a curated package, enough proof to confirm her marriage was over, but not so much she'd think I was vindictive. Jennifer Lavalier was about to have the worst weekend of her life, but she'd have evidence to protect her children and financial interests. Phase 3 was most satisfying. Rebecca's company had strict policies against personal relationships between employees, especially involving expense account fraud and travel privilege abuse. HR Director Margaret Torres was no nonsense, experienced with similar situations. Mr. Warner, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, she said during our Friday evening call with professional gravity. We'll need full investigation, but if these allegations prove accurate, Ms. Warner will face immediate disciplinary action. I understand, I replied respectfully. I thought the company should know before this becomes legal. It's going to become legal regardless, Margaret stated with corporate certainty. Using corporate funds for personal affairs and filing fraudulent expense reports? Textbook embezzlement. We'll have no choice but recommend prosecution. By Sunday evening, all pieces were positioned. Rebecca would return from her romantic weekend to find her professional life imploding, her lover's marriage destroyed, and divorce papers waiting. But first, I had one final performance. I'd invited both sets of parents for dinner under the pretense of working on our marriage issues. Rebecca's parents had never particularly liked me. I wasn't ambitious enough for their daughter. My parents had grown uncomfortable with Rebecca's behavior, but been too polite to comment. Emma and Jake were present when Rebecca walked in at 6:30, still glowing from her weekend with Mark. She was surprised to see everyone gathered but recovered quickly. "What's all this?" she asked with curious confusion, setting down her suitcase. "Family meeting," I announced calmly. "We need to discuss some things." Rebecca's parents looked confused but pleased. They'd been pushing marriage counseling. My parents looked concerned but supportive. Emma watched with sharp teenage attention, sensing drama. Jake was just happy everyone was together. "Before we start," I said with deliberate formality, opening my laptop, "I want everyone to understand exactly what we're dealing with." I'd prepared a presentation Rebecca would have admired. Clean graphics, bullet points, supporting documentation. Logical, evidence-based argument appealing to analytical minds. "Rebecca, 3 weeks ago you told me our marriage was dead and you'd been exploring relationships with other men to feel alive again," I began. "You suggested we open our marriage to accommodate your affairs." Rebecca's face went white. This wasn't how she'd planned to control the narrative. "David, what are you—" she began desperately. "Let me finish," I interrupted firmly. I clicked to the next slide, showing Rebecca's travel timeline cross-referenced with hotel receipts and expense reports. This records Rebecca's travel over the past year. Red indicates actual business trips. Blue indicates trips meeting married men for romantic weekends. Dead silence. Emma stared at her mother with dawning comprehension and disgust. Jake looked confused but sensed tension. Both sets of parents were processing implications. "Rebecca has been conducting simultaneous affairs with at least 3 married executives from her company," I continued with methodical devastation, "using our joint credit cards and her corporate expense account to fund these relationships while lying about client meetings and business conferences." I clicked through slides showing Sandra's photos, message screenshots, and audio transcripts of Rebecca discussing our family in degrading terms while planning her exit strategy. Rebecca tried, interrupting with desperate explanations, but evidence was overwhelming. Her explanations, photos taken out of context, messages misunderstood, crumbled against documentation weight. The breaking point came when I played audio of Rebecca describing our children as minor inconveniences and me as a live-in babysitter. She could manipulate. Emma stood abruptly, chair scraping hardwood. "Mom, how could you say that about us? About Dad?" she demanded with teenage fury. "Emma, honey, you don't understand the context," Rebecca pleaded desperately. "I understand you've been lying for months while Dad was home helping with homework. And driving us to games and conferences you were too busy cheating to attend," Emma shot back with devastating accuracy. Jake was crying, not understanding adult complexities, but recognizing family disintegration. My mother comforted him while shooting Rebecca pure disappointment. Rebecca's father cleared his throat with patriarchal authority. "Rebecca Ann, is this true?" "Dad, it's complicated," Rebecca responded with weakening justification. "Adult relationships aren't black and white? Did you or did you not have affairs with married men while lying to your husband and children?" he demanded with simple moral clarity. Simple, direct question hung in air. Rebecca's sophisticated justifications about mature relationships suddenly seemed pathetic against her father's moral clarity. "Yes," she admitted with crumbling defiance. "But David is making it sound worse." "How could it be worse?" my father asked quietly with profound disappointment. "You betrayed your family and abandoned your children for men who were also betraying their families." Rebecca's mother cried silently, dreams of her daughter's perfect marriage crumbling. My parents just looked sad. They'd suspected something but hadn't imagined deception scope. Emma delivered the killing blow with teenage directness. "Mom, I can't believe you threw away our family for random guys who were probably lying to you as much as you lied to us." "They weren't random," Rebecca protested weakly. "Yes, they were," Emma interrupted with brutal honesty. "You think Mark or James actually cared? They were using you for intimacy while staying married to their real families, and you were stupid enough to think that made you special." Rebecca exploded with maternal authority. "Don't talk to me like that. I'm your mother." "Then act like it," Emma shouted back with accumulated fury. "A mother doesn't abandon kids for affairs. A mother doesn't miss her son's championship for her boss. A mother doesn't call her husband a boring babysitter while he's raising her children." Profanity from my normally well-behaved 15-year-old shocked everyone into silence. Emma was crying now, years of anger pouring out. "Emma's right," Jake said quietly, voice thick with tears and simple childhood honesty. "You don't want to be with us anymore. You're always somewhere else." Rebecca looked around at 6 faces reflecting disappointment, disgust, and pity. Her parents were ashamed. My parents were supportive but sad. Her children were angry and hurt, and I was calm, methodical, finished with her forever. "This is ridiculous," she said finally with desperate denial. "David's turned you all against me with his presentation. You don't understand the full situation." "Then explain it," I said with deadly calm. "Explain how lying to your family, abandoning your children, and conducting multiple affairs while stealing from your employer represents the situation we're failing to understand." She couldn't. For all her sophistication, Rebecca had no defense against simple moral truth. She'd betrayed everyone who loved her for temporary excitement with men who were also betrayers. Rebecca grabbed her purse and keys with sharp, defensive movements. "I don't have to listen to this." "No, you don't," I agreed with cold finality. "But you'll listen to your attorney Monday when divorce papers are served. And you'll listen to HR about the investigation into your expense fraud. And you'll listen to Jennifer Lavalier's lawyer when she subpoenas you for her divorce proceedings." Rebecca stopped in the doorway with sudden alarm. "What? Did you think I'd discovered your affairs and done nothing?" I asked with quiet devastation. "I've spent 3 weeks building a comprehensive case with investigators and attorneys. Your professional life, relationships, and marriage are ending simultaneously, tomorrow morning." For the first time, Rebecca looked genuinely frightened. Her confidence in controlling the situation, managing reactions, emerging with minimal consequences, all crumbled as she realized she'd been outmaneuvered by the boring, passive husband she'd thoroughly underestimated. "David, we can work this out," she pleaded with growing desperation. "We don't have to destroy everything." "You already destroyed everything," I replied with finality. "I'm just cleaning up the mess." She left without another word, driving into darkness that had become her final judgment. Through the window, I watched her car disappear, taking 16 years of marriage and any illusions about the woman I'd loved. Emma hugged me fiercely. "Dad, I'm sorry she did this to you, to all of us," she said with fierce protectiveness. "I'm sorry too, sweetheart," I replied, holding her tight. "But we're going to be okay." Jake joined the hug. For a moment we stood there, father and children, damaged but not broken, ready to face whatever came next together. Rebecca's phone started buzzing before she'd made it home. Mark's wife had found the evidence. The reckoning had begun. The collapse came faster than I'd anticipated. Rebecca's double life imploded with controlled demolition efficiency, each failure triggering the next in a cascade she couldn't control. Monday brought divorce papers, served at Rebecca's office by a process server who found her in emergency HR meetings. Margaret Torres later told me Rebecca tried maintaining professional composure while being handed documents detailing her affairs and financial misconduct in clinical legal language. Tuesday, Mark Lavalier cleaned out his office. Jennifer's attorney had moved quickly, filing for emergency custody and asset protection based on my evidence. Mark's company, facing potential liability for executive misconduct, terminated him immediately to distance themselves from scandal. Rebecca's demotion came Thursday. Her new title, Junior Marketing Associate, carried 40% pay cuts and eliminated travel privileges. The company needed her gone but wanted to avoid wrongful termination lawsuits, so they'd created a position forcing resignation or professional purgatory. "She's basically answering phones and updating spreadsheets," Sandra told me during our final meeting with professional satisfaction. 20 years of advancement wiped out in a week. The custody hearing 6 weeks later was everything, Mike predicted. Rebecca's attorney, a tired public defender she'd been forced to hire after salary cuts made private counsel unaffordable, tried painting me as vindictive and controlling. But evidence spoke for itself. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed Sandra's documentation with methodical attention of someone who'd seen too many families destroyed by adultery. "Ms. Warner, you missed your son's championship game for what you described as a much-needed weekend away from suburban tedium," she stated. "Is that accurate?" Rebecca shifted uncomfortably in the witness chair. "Your Honor, I was going through a difficult marriage period." "That wasn't my question," Judge Morrison interrupted with judicial authority. "Did you prioritize a romantic weekend with a married man over your 12-year-old's most important game?" Yes. But," Rebecca admitted with crumbling defiance. "And you missed your daughter's Honor Society induction for what your texts describe as an amazing night with James that was way better than watching Emma get another certificate," the judge continued relentlessly. "Also accurate?" The courtroom was silent, except for Rebecca's attorney scribbling unusable notes. Rebecca's pattern of choosing affairs over family responsibilities was documented too thoroughly for denial. Emma had asked to speak directly to the judge. At 15, her preferences carried serious weight. "Your Honor, I love my mother, but I don't trust her anymore," Emma testified with remarkable composure. "She's been lying to us for over a year while my dad held our family together. I want to live with him full-time and see Mom weekends if she even wants to." Jake's victim impact statement, written with my help but in his own words, was devastating. "My mom used to come to games and help with homework. Now she's always somewhere else with people more important than us. Dad never misses anything. I want to stay with Dad." The judge awarded me primary custody, with Rebecca receiving supervised weekend visitation. The supervision requirement stung, a clear message questioning her judgment and priorities. Financial settlement was equally brutal. Illinois' consideration of adultery and property division, combined with Rebecca's documented misuse of marital assets, left her with barely 30% of joint holdings. House, retirement accounts, and college funds remained primarily under my control. Mark's divorce proceeded even more catastrophically. Jennifer's attorney, armed with my evidence package, documented every hotel room, romantic dinner, and lie about working late. His settlement included primary custody of twin daughters, 70% of assets, and alimony until his youngest graduated college. Mark broke all contact with Rebecca the day his wife filed, Sandra informed me with investigative thoroughness. His love wasn't strong enough to survive actual consequences. James Morrison and David Reese suffered similar fates as their wives. Discovered evidence I'd shared through anonymous packages. Rebecca's exciting network of powerful lovers evaporated overnight, leaving her professionally diminished, financially strapped, and romantically alone. 4 months after my initial discovery, Rebecca was forced to sell her house stake to pay legal fees and moving expenses. She'd found a studio apartment across town, cramped, expensive, and daily reminder of the life she'd traded for temporary excitement. I attended the closing, watching Rebecca sign papers transferring her stake in 16 years of shared memories, for a check barely covering first year's rent. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by consequence weight she'd never anticipated. "David," she said afterward in the parking lot with genuine vulnerability, "I know you don't want to hear this, but I am sorry. I never meant for things to go this far." I studied her face, looking for the woman I'd married, She was still there, buried beneath poor choices and delusional justifications, but she was a stranger now. "You're right. I don't want to hear it," I replied with measured finality. "Not because I'm angry, but because it doesn't matter. You made choices, Rebecca. Every single day for over a year, you chose excitement over family, lies over truth, temporary pleasure over permanent relationships. I'm just ensuring you live with consequences." "The kids barely talk to me anymore," she said with growing despair. "That's not my fault, that's yours," I stated with unwavering clarity. "You taught them mothers abandon children for affairs. You taught them wives lie while mocking husbands to lovers. If you want relationships with Emma and Jake, rebuild their trust one honest conversation at a time." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears, first genuine emotion I'd seen since this began. "I messed up everything good in my life for men who didn't even care about me," she admitted with devastating self-awareness. "Yes, you did," I confirmed, without softening the blow. She nodded slowly, finally understanding her sophisticated justifications about mature relationships had been self-serving delusions. She'd destroyed her marriage, abandoned her children, and ruined her career for men who'd discarded her when loving her became inconvenient. "I hope someday you can forgive me," she said with quiet pleading. "I already have, Rebecca," I replied with surprising gentleness. "Not for your sake, but for mine and the kids. Holding anger would just give you power over our future. And you've had enough power over our lives." I drove home to the house that was now truly mine, where Emma was helping Jake with algebra at the kitchen table where Rebecca had once tried justifying affairs as marriage enhancement. The domestic routine Rebecca had mocked as boring had become our foundation for rebuilding. 6 months after the discovery that changed everything, I sat in the same office where my marriage imploded, watching Emma work on college application essays. She was writing about overcoming adversity, her words carrying wisdom of someone who'd learned early that character matters more than excitement. "I learned that integrity isn't about being perfect," she typed with thoughtful concentration. "It's about being honest, especially when honesty is difficult. My father showed me that real strength isn't about winning. It's about protecting people you love and holding accountable people who hurt them." Jake had thrived in our new stability. His grades improved dramatically once underlying tension disappeared, and his confidence grew knowing his father would always be present for important things. He still saw Rebecca every other weekend, but their relationship remained strained. She'd moved to a larger apartment and was making efforts to rebuild connections, but trust, once broken so completely, was slow to heal. My own life had found unexpected rhythm. Work was going well. The promotion Rebecca had mocked as middle management had led to senior architect position with substantial salary increases. I'd been on a few dates, but wasn't rushing into anything serious. Experience with Rebecca taught me the crucial importance of truly knowing someone's character before major commitments. That evening, I opened my laptop to delete the cloud storage folder containing all evidence from Rebecca's affairs. The video that started everything, Sandra's photographs, deception timeline, audio recordings, all could finally be permanently erased. Some things, I thought, hovering over delete, are better left buried once justice is served. The irony wasn't lost, that the same technology revealing Rebecca's betrayal now allowed me to let it go completely. Her careless digital security had been her downfall, but my methodical documentation had been our salvation. I clicked delete and watched 3 months of evidence vanish forever. Rebecca's betrayal would always be part of our family history, but no longer needed to be part of our future. My phone buzzed with Emma's text. "Thanks for always being the parent who stayed." I smiled and returned to evening cleanup that Rebecca had once mocked as suburban tedium. Dishes needed washing, tomorrow's coffee needed setting up, Jake's uniform needed checking for grass stains. Boring, domestic, predictable tasks that meant my children could count on me to be present, honest, and reliable. Rebecca had taught them, through negative example, that excitement without character is worthless, that promises matter more than passion, and that the parent who shows up consistently is worth more than the parent who shows up spectacularly but sporadically. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.